This is F.D. Recovery, where we interview addicts and alcoholics.
Our aim is that through this podcast, we might help you on your journey of recovery.
Thank you for listening. Hello, this is Frank with F.D. Recovery. This is the weekly intention. For those of you that do not know what the weekly intention is, we go week to week, topics, spiritual principles, and we work them in our daily lives of recovery, right? Clean and sober, 7 years. I just got it a couple weeks ago, so I'm pretty proud of that. Also, another announcement is I will be switching my tapings and released on the Tuesdays. Tuesdays will be the day. So just want to tell you that early in the podcast, so just in case you don't listen to the end or if it's in the middle, so on and so forth. But that's the important announcement. But we'll go right into the weekly intention. This week will be overthinking. But before we dive into that and we overthink on that, we will recap on resilience. How did resilience work for my recovery this week? Well, I talked about it a lot, and the mic's a little hot. Let me turn that down. Well, I talked about it a lot, and the funny thing is with this whole recovery thing is you don't really embody things right away. At least I do not, right? If you do that, then great. Good on you. But for this addict, it does not work like that. It takes me mistake after mistake, me not being strong nor resilient to kind of really embody something. I definitely would not prescribe being a jackass for certain things, but that's just kind of my process, right? But for me, it takes a lot of bumping of my heads, a little bit of fighting with the wife and all that stuff to kind of get me back on track, right? Again, remember, it's not about being perfect. It's just about doing it, right? Getting the work done, step after step, one foot in front of another. But resilience, the ability to bounce back. And I realize I've practiced resilience most of my life because, my life has been a comeback story all the time, right? Because I've gained, lost things over and over. It's like the reality of gaining, losing, right? The bounce back and the power that you get from knowing that you've gone from ground zero and back, ground zero to back. There's a special type of strength cultivated in that process. I definitely would not advise you to make so many mistakes, but that's how you learn. That's how you grow. It's part of being a human being, right? And I do know on this journey of life that you got to honor even the ugly stuff, right? Because God made ugly, and that's that's a line from famous rapper. So God loves ugly, right? But God made ugly. Right. And that's the important thing about this, right, is understanding that no matter what side or what you're feeling, it's all part of this experience of life. Right. And I've spent so much time not cultivating all the gems within some of the falls that I took and some of the mistakes that I've made, relationships that I've hurt. I've went through that, really blocking the blessings that came along with it for so many years and not understanding that even though, right, there were mistakes and I hurt people and there was wreckage to be cleaned up, right, but there was also a lot of gems in that. And I think the most important thing to understand about resilience for me is that it's kind of I'm like a living bounce back experiment, right? And I know that I know you addicts and alcoholics could you can vibe with that because that's kind of the story of us, right? We've gone to the depths, we've been to hell and back. It's not about So, the thing about trying to find heaven, it's just like, okay, well, I don't really know what that is, but I know what hell is, and that's a place I don't want to go back to. And this whole concept of heaven and this paradise is not realistic. There's at least for me, it's not realistic. We got to deal with the realities of certain things and certain whether it be mindsets, mind hive out there, group thought, group think, right? We have to accept that there's a reality out there, whether you agree with it or not, that you have to kind of pay homage to, and regardless of where you're at in life, you kind of have to play the game, right? Don't get me wrong, you could always shine your uniqueness onto the situation, and that's expected, right? I expect people to come in and be exactly how they are and who they are, and whether good or bad, it's just a part of the gig, right? And that's one thing with this whole resilience thing is bouncing back, and never giving up, right? Being flexible, adjustable, all these things that I'm not used to being, right? I didn't realize it was really priming the pump for hardship in the future, going through you know all this hardship that I placed upon myself, and all these things I placed on other people without their, without their want and will for it to happen. But there I was, changing the trajectory of their life for better or worse, and that's what I did, right? And understanding, even though I had to work through a lot of self forgiveness, and that's part of bouncing back and the resilience that we harvest through this, right? Even though I screwed up so many fucking times, I'm able to come back, stand in the light, and be able to face the things that I did. And when I make a mistake, be able to face the mistake that I made. And that's true resilience to me, right? It takes, although at times my ego makes me feel weak about it, and I hate every second of it, because I'd be a damn liar if I told you, oh, I love it. I love admitting when I'm wrong. I love being wrong, and I love being called out, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not a good feeling, right? I've learned to live with it, and I learned that it's very necessary if I want to grow, to be able to face the things that I've done wrong. When I make mistakes, I got to do my best to shake it off, and don't let my pride block me from the blessings of that lesson, right? And um, I won't go too deep into resilience, because I think it kind of speaks for itself. It's a strength, the flexibility, the bounce back. We all know what it's like, especially when we've been living the life we've been living, right? We don't got we got living proof of that, right? We're here today, especially if you're living, breathing, and you used to do a bunch of drugs and stuff, right? And you're now clean and sober, and you're living, breathing sober. That's a big change, right? And I don't want to ever how do you say, I don't ever want to underplay that, because, I'm 7 years clean and sober, and I feel fucking great. And I've done a lot of work to get where I'm at, and I'm extremely blessed, right? So I never want to downplay it. I got a text message from a gentleman a couple weeks ago, and he's like, man, I'm really down in the dumps. I don't know what to do. And we've been back and forth, and he's back in where I was living before in South Lake, and we went back and forth. He's telling me all his hardships. He's dealing with alcoholism and yada yada. You know what we do, right? And just the other day, he hits me up again, and he says, "What do I do?" I send him one word, and that's rehab, right? Because I already gave him the suggestion for meetings, AA, NA, blah blah blah. So I realized he was at a desperate point just from the message that he sent me, and all I sent back was rehab, and I just left it at that. Didn't respond, nothing. And a couple, or this morning, right? Couple, maybe a week and a half passed, not quite 2 weeks. He messaged me saying, "Man, I'm going to rehab," and he says, "Thank you." And I said, "Well, you don't really have to thank me. I appreciate you thanking me." But he said, "No, no, no, man. I'm going to share your podcast when I'm down there." And I said, the hard part's just getting started, right? Don't give up, because everything in your mind and your body is going to tell you want to leave that place, right? Because we get in there and we get on blackout, we expect it to be this certain type of way because we're built off expectations. And I went 5 different times to rehabs, and it's like I never, even though I've been there, I never knew what to expect, because the head trip was always different coming in, the situation was always different, the girl was always different. It's just different, right? The only some of the things that I wish was told to me, I told them, hey, have an open mind, right? I said, because you're going to go in there, you're going to hear a lot of talk, and there's going to be a lot of information given to you, but don't leave before the miracle. I said, I wish I had somebody telling me this ahead of time, especially someone in recovery, letting me know exactly I'm going to be facing. I said, don't leave before the miracle, right? And that was just, it was pretty cool to go back and forth with him and just hear. I hope he goes, and I'll give you an update later, but I hope he goes to rehab and stays clean and sober. That's what the hope is, right? For all the struggling alcoholics and addicts out there. But that's enough for resilience, right? And we'll move on to overthinking. Let's see what almighty Google, the Google-nator. Overthinking, also known as rumination. Oh, okay, rumination. How fancy. Rumination is the act of repetitively dwelling on or worrying about the same thing, often with negativity. It can involve analyzing a situation for a long period of time, making it difficult to focus on anything else. Overthinking can be caused by or contribute to mental health disorders like anxiety and depression. Here's what overthinking can look like: replaying thoughts, obsessing over past or future mistakes. Future mistakes, holy shit. I like that. That takes it to a whole nother level. Like you're tripping on something that hasn't even happened, but you know it's going to happen almost. Are rehearsing uncomfortable conversations. Holy shit. I do that all the time, man. Holy that. I mean, that's just like any trauma, right? If like, shoot, man, or have you ever been embarrassed and that thought just comes back into your brain, and you're like, oh, and you almost feel the same damn thing that you felt when that action occurred. You're like, ugh, and it makes you crawl in your skin, and you feel just itty bitty, right? You feel like you're back there living all the same shit, right? But that goes with conversations and trauma and feelings and things that happen, right? That's such a crazy thing, right? That we rehearse these things. At least I know I did. And if you're not, if nothing, if you can't resonate with that, then I guess I get it. But not, at the same time, no, man, I'm always tripping on shit that happened in the past. Right, I do it a lot less now, but that was like the cornerstone of all my problems. Right, when I was getting to the thick of all my problems in the weeds. Right, it was like had me stuck there. Like I was sitting there spinning wheels. Right. And it goes on to second guessing, questioning decisions, and criticizing even small errors. Right? Second guessing, man, that can get you. I'm a firm believer in just choose and go, choose and go. Right? Obviously, you don't want to, do that off impulse. That's a whole different thing. Like you choose. What is a choice, right? You choose it. It's something after some deliberation you choose, right? And so it's important that second guessing, right? If you're going to choose something, you want to weigh out the options. You want to make damn sure you're going to do it, and you choose. Sometimes it's like, for me, it's like I eliminate small choices. I wear the same damn thing every day, right? And people are like, man, why don't you get some new clothes? I'm like, no, because today I want to free up my choices, and I realize even the smallest things can take up so much of your bandwidth. And I'm not I want to I've architected my life to a certain point to where I found out my little hacks and that things that work for me. It's not about whether it'll work for you, it's about what's working in my recovery, right? And if it stops working, I'll reevaluate it, and here I am justifying it, right? But the thing is, right, it's important to find your niche. You find little niches in recovery, and you take suggestions and see what works, see what doesn't, come up with your own, right, based off of some good knowledge, right? Just don't come up with some far-fetched shit. The second guessing is a good one, right? And the next one, imagining worst case scenarios, fixating on things that can't be changed or improved. Ooh, that sounds familiar. God grant me the courage to change the things I can and the things I can't. You know, that whole spiel, right? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Well, shit. Yeah, the wisdom to know the difference. What can't and can't be changed or improved, right? Fixating on things that can't be changed. I wonder if I've ever done that. I don't know if that sounds familiar to you guys, but I've sure the fuck did it for many, many years. I still do it today, right? So imagining worst case scenario, fixating on things that can't be changed or improved, right? I'm always catastrophizing. The addict in my brain, or the whatever, this parasite, negativity, devil, whatever you want to call it, boogeyman, right? Whatever we chalk it up to, in the end, it's not working for us, right? Don't get me wrong, not all darkness is bad, because I've learned a lot of lessons from the darkness that I've done, but I would not prescribe it. And there's easier, softer way. If you could listen to suggestions, you wouldn't have to bump your head. It took me a lot of bumping my head. So today we try to give out that knowledge, which was freely given to me, and we try to help each other out so we could stop bumping our heads, right? Because it's not comfortable walking around with a helmet all the time. Come on. The realization of you need to change, and if you stay the same, it's going to be much worse, so you better fucking change, right? That's the kind of realization that I had to get to, right? Because imagining worst case scenario isn't good for anybody. And if you bring that situation into an emergency scenario, it's all bad, right? Because you're only bringing more panic to the situation. But even on the small scale, you're just a negative Nancy. You think of worst case scenario, man, you're really bogging down your dreams. You're really bogging down your creative flow. I mean, think about that. You're really just you're cutting the rosebud off, and you're not giving yourself a fucking fighting chance, right? And I'm a firm believer, give yourself a chance. Give yourself a fighting chance, please. Right? And the next one, it says running lists. Lists. A little extra S on there for you. Dwelling on worrying while trying to sleep. Oh, shit. Dwelling on worries while trying to sleep. Let me fix that up for you. Running lists. Okay, that's a good. So just in the bed, tripping. Oh, God, I can't. I know when I lay my head down, all of a sudden I start thinking about the bills I need to pay, or like, oh, let me jump on there and make sure it went through. Oh my God, I've done that with so much. Oh, I got to do the yard or whatever, right? Now it's small stuff. I mean, back in the day, it was always some hectic shit of who's going to hurt me, who's going to come in on me, are they going to kick the door in, are they going to arrest me? I got warrants. There was a whole bunch of things that didn't allow me to rest my head at night in peace, right? So I totally get that. Running lists. So what list are you running over when you lay your head down, and, is it all worth it? Right? You could deal with that shit in the morning. Let your mind turn off. I've learned a lot of breathing techniques that help me in those times of where I'm tripping on really nothing, right? And so perfectionism, that's the next one. I don't know if I know anything about that because I am perfect. Wouldn't know it if I seen it. That's how perfect I am. Right? So perfectionism, right? I could relate to that. Obsessing over short outcomes and trying to live up to unrealistic expectations. Wow. Right? Unrealistic expectations, right? But, the trippy thing is about all this is this perfectionism, man. I deal with it, and I know a lot of people deal with it too, right? It's unrealistic expectations on your environment. It could be unrealistic expectations on you that other people are placing, or maybe things that you think they're placing on you. Whatever it is, you gotta free yourself up from that, man, because and it can get tricky because when you're dealing like overthinking, especially with PTSD, it get sorry guys, it gets rough, right? That was my PTSD kicking in right there. But think about it, right? When you're dealing with anxiety, depression, and PTSD was a big one for me, man. I deal with anxiety too, but I think that stems from my PTSD. I've done a lot of searching within myself, and I realize it's what I'm hanging on to, all that trauma, different events that happened in my life that I see as in myself as unacceptable. It should have never happened to me. I felt wronged, all these things, right? And it's important to get to recognize the impact of everything and what it's really doing to you. And it's super important, right? you know and it says, what's the cause of overthinking. It kind of goes over kind of what we already. Overthinking can be caused by anxiety, stress, perfectionism, past trauma, or low self-esteem. hmm I've heard of that low self-esteem stuff, right? I heard in a meeting, it was like, you want self-esteem, do esteemable acts. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Oh, it sounds fancy, right? But the more I, the more I got into this recovery thing, I realized what it meant, right? In order to have self-esteem, you must do esteemable acts. You mean to tell me I have to live up to these morals and beliefs and these standards that I place within, whether it could be religion or spirituality, have to kind of live up to these things, and be a good person, live by these spiritual principles, practice humility. And if I do these esteemable acts, help somebody when they're in need, help somebody even though I don't want to help them, right? But don't do it at the negative effect of me. If it's going to hurt me, then shit, man, then that's just about awareness of your situation and understanding that you could be putting yourself in a risky scenario. But beyond that, when you're in service, is putting yourself out there and putting yourself in a position to be used by your higher power. It's so, I mean, it's beyond measure what you could achieve in this life when you put yourself in a position where you could help another person. Because I've learned that I'm pretty able-bodied, right? I'm a very strong person. I've always been a little bit quicker, stronger than most people, right? And I don't mean to say that gloating. It's just what does that mean, right? When I have a certain advantage in this life, I need to use it for good, right? And there's plenty other people have on the skills that this whole equal thing is not really realistic, right? You have skills that are far beyond mine, right? And to think that we're equal as far as skills wise, and I don't mean as people, like human beings, we're all equal in that sense, soul to soul, we're all equal. I'm talking about just like basic skills, like different skills we all possess, right? To think that that's equal playing field is far-fetched, right? You can get to the places that you see other people on, but also you need to stick to the path of where your strengths are, right? And getting back to this, I thought everything had to be equal. I thought, well, we're equal, everything has to be equal, right? You need to dumb yourself down for me, be equal to me. No, it doesn't work like that. Today, I don't stop other people's shine just because I don't decide to be bright, right? And that's one thing that I'm doing today in my life, is understanding I can shine just the way I need to shine, and you don't need to dim your light for me. right? And it's a very important thing for me, right? And when you overthink and when you get all this stress and perfectionism and your past traumas and your low self-esteem combined, it can cause a shit storm of overthinking, right? That's I mean, how do you treat it? And let's see what it says, right? Overthinking treatment involves therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. I'm sure you guys heard of that, and acceptance and commitment therapy, ACP. Oh, wait. What am I talking about? ACT. There we go. You know what I'm hoping. Along with lifestyle changes such as practicing mindfulness and meditation, engaging in physical exercise. Oh, yeah, that one's a big one. And that you want to find out a hack right there. And align your body with your spirit, and you'd be surprised on how much your mind just snaps back into reality. It's like you give yourself some of that. You lube the joints and you lube the brain. You lube the soul, right? It's important, right? And using distraction techniques to shift focus from negative thought patterns. Well, yeah, I mean, you got to interrupt that, right? I've learned the interruption process is so important. People are just like, well, you got to be strong enough. You don't, no, 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 no. You can't do this off sheer will alone. For me, what helps interrupt those overbearing negative thoughts and thought patterns, I got to do some prayer, baby. That's just the reality is I got to do some serious prayer. And through that and connecting with my higher power and doing all the breath work that I know I need to do, getting in tune with my body with push-ups, lifting weights, running, everything I got to do, a little bit of cardio, all that, right? It's all a part of the toolbox, right? And it really helps suppress this overthinking, right? It says, what are the signs? I know the signs, but let's see what Google has to say. All right. Overthinking symptoms include mental exhaustion. Oh, I could relate to that. Have you ever just beat it to death in your mind where you're just like, I'm going to figure this problem out right now? And it's funny when the problem involves that you think involves another person, and it really can't get solved unless you communicate. But at the same time, you don't really want to involve that person. And you think that overthinking and thinking of all these possible scenarios will somehow suffice, only to figure out that all you need to do is talk to the person and look at them like a human being and look past your differences and be able to connect in such a way that they could express what they need to and you could express what you need to, and you don't put your feelings above theirs, and then vice versa, right? It's all good until and you put it into practical use. That's all fine and dandy, right? But it's only through practical use that it actually comes true, because you can talk about it all day. You can rumination, it said, right? You can talk about it all day, but really, does it actually come to existence unless you put it into action? And that's most of what this stuff is, right? You can dream up a good dream, but when you actually put it into practice and this stuff becomes reality, you actually put it forward, press play, right? And stop trying to fast forward through everything. I realized I was doing that crap to myself. I realized I was fast forwarding through all the blessings, all the good times. I just wanted to get it done. I just didn't want to smell the roses. I remember an ex-girlfriend of mine, she says, man, I wish you would just stop and smell the roses. It was my first girlfriend, right? And I was like, what? Skirt. I took off saying, whatever, dude. I don't know what you're talking. Roses? What the fuck? You know, I'm blowing past those roses, petals flying off, right? And that's just kind of the Speedy Gonzalez mindset I was in, right? Especially being high on speed didn't help. But, I've had so many times where people try to reach out to in my life and really just try to help me. And there I was, just too lost in my own ways, right? And going back to this overthinking, right? Mental exhaustion, the inability to concentrate, trouble sleeping, and persistent worrying on manifesting as a loop or negative thought, second guessing decisions, and the dwelling on the past events and imagine worst case scenarios, right? It's kind of a feedback loop of negativity, right? And I used to look at all these symptoms, right? What are the signs? I used to be like, "Oh my god, I think I'm ADD." Right? I was just fucking crazy. That's what was happening. I had too many unresolved issues, and ADD, well, it qualified me to get more speed, baby. Right? That's the reality. So I was sitting there self-diagnosing and then going into every mental health visit. I've been on lithium, Seroquel, Adderall, all the alls, right? I've been on Klonopin, Xanax, methadone, anything you can think of. And I'm sorry if I'm triggering you, but that's just my story, right? I really don't mean to trigger you, but unless I'm speaking the truth on this whole recovery shit, then I mean, what's the point of it if I can't get on here and be honest, right? But that's the way it goes. I guess if you're triggered, hopefully you're in a safe place and you can talk yourself down and get with your support group, right? But that overthinking, man, I owned that. I thought I was a master of overthinking. I thought if I overanalyzed and I spent more time thinking about it than I did doing it, right? And that's the whole thing when I say, it's easy until you put it in practice, but it's better to practice it than just think it, right? So that's the whole thing. It gets easier the more you put it into practice. It's not always going to be practical, and it won't feel that way. But when you get better and better at it, you realize it is very practical. It is very practical to get yourself on a smooth regimen of no longer dope or alcohol, but like breath work, meetings, support groups, sponsorship, AA, NA, all the things. And in your recovery is going to change, right? Throughout it, you're going to have highs and lows, ebbs and flows, right? That's why we just went back to resilience, because you're going to fall again. Hopefully you don't fall to your addiction and you fall to the normal stuff we have to deal with: emotions, feelings, past trauma, all that. And hopefully you can get through it sober, right? So this week I will be working on overthinking, right? I won't be working at overthinking. I'll be working on getting myself to a balanced state and just trying my best to put a pause on that overthinking button, right? Hit that pause button on it. Well, yeah, seems like I do hit an overthinking button, right? But just hit pause on it. And it's like that one from Staples, right? The easy button, right? You can stop, you could make it easy street, but it's going to take a little bit of work. It's simple but not easy, right? You hear all these, and these sayings will click for more and more that you get into recovery. I'm sorry that I babbled on this, but I pretty much babble every time. So again, for all my listeners out there, I love you. I will be dropping a video with this. Look out for it. I'll tag it to my Facebook, all that, man. I love you guys, and work on overthinking this week, because I know I am. Again, this is FD Recovery, and we out. Peace. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you for tuning in to FD Recovery. A reminder, be kind to yourself on this journey of recovery. Also, call your sponsor, get connected to local support groups, and for one day at a time, stay clean and sober.